Welcome back to Retro Inc. This week's show, I'm joined by my co-host Jeremy and
Hello
special
there.
guest. Hello there, and special guest today, Ian. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent news. So, how's your week been? Have you watched very much in your spare time?
No, I've been just catching up on a few programs. I like to keep up to date with Star Trek Discovery, and I've caught up with Orville as well, which I absolutely love. Just a wonderful blend of comedy and it's actually really good sci-fi as well. I think so. I really quite enjoy that program. So,
How are you? Where are you watching?
Keith Harris still in it?
Ian.
Where do I watch it? My
Yeah.
friend's got a Plex account.
I see. Right. Yeah, because I was
Sorry?
saying I didn't know what streaming service that was on. So
No, he's got a Plex account and he uploads it on there for watching. So we watch it on there.
great stuff. Jeremy, you had a question there for Ian about Orville.
No, I was just being an idiot and saying Keith Harris still on it. I thought he'd retired or something.
Keith Harris.
He's his very best friend, though.
Yeah.
Oh, he is. Yeah. Jeremy, what have you been doing with yourself this week, other than work? And
I've had a busy week, and I've not been watching anything at all as my telly died. So I've been blank screen. So I've been listening to a lot of books, which is lovely.
Fantastic.
I'm happy to have a bit of peace and quiet and listen to books. I'm listening to an autobiography of Bruce Lee at the moment, which is fascinating. And
Wow.
I found out a lot of things about Bruce Lee I didn't know, and I was a Bruce Lee fan.
So this is via Audible.
Yeah, it's an Audible one. Yeah, when they're doing a buy one get one free, I bought a load the other day, and it's a really, really, really good audio book. I had no idea that Bruce Lee was a child star in China.
So what was the first thing he was in?
He was in loads as a child actor. He wasn't. I always thought he was a martial artist who became an actor, but he's not. He's an actor who became a martial artist.
And he was a cha-cha champion as well.
Yeah, he loved to jive. He taught a lot of dancing. I didn't know that.
So yeah,
True.
Amazing guy.
He was an amazing guy. I loved his ethos and his philosophy, and I think back in the 70s he did a couple of books, didn't he, on his philosophy of life and his teachings.
He actually only published one book.
Was it just the one? Was it
just only ever one book he published? He only ever competed in one combat tournament, and that was in boxing. But up until he moved to America and started his own schools, he was a bit of a tearaway and a bit of a git. He was not the man we grew to love. He was quite the opposite. And when he started his martial arts schools in America, that's when he started his journey to enlightenment and became an amazing person.
Yes, indeed.
That he was.
Yes. And which for you is his standout movie?
It has to be Enter the Dragon. I watched it before my telly blew up with Freddie, and he absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I think that was the starting point for most of us getting into martial arts movies. I mean, because that was his first Western martial arts movie. The other ones were discovered after that, I think, more than anything else. It's a shame he died before he ever saw it in the cinema.
Sure.
But,
absolutely. Ian, have you ventured into the world of Bruce Lee movies, and which one have you seen that really sort of stands out?
I think I've seen a few of them, but it was a very long time ago, so I need to revisit them. But yeah, I've always loved Bruce Lee, any martial arts movies. So yeah, I need to go back and recapture that time in my life.
I always loved Game of Death. That was the movie that I loved the most. I think certainly the yellow tracksuit was the thing that was very iconic and certainly captured in Kill Bill, wasn't it? Where she wore the similar thing. And I think Fist of Fury I watched a great number of times. But it was really Enter the Dragon, I think, which was the sort of seminal film that kind of captured you. And when you found out that there was a cut scene, you were desperate to find that cut scene, then unchuck scene, which I'm not sure even if it's on the regular Blu-ray version. But
I watched it. I recorded off the telly, and they had the nunchuck scene in it then.
I did.
So, and then pointing out Jackie Chan being killed in it and things like that is quite fun.
Yeah.
I think he killed in that one twice actually.
Well, talking to Blu-ray, we know that streaming is taking a bigger share of the home video market, and there's still plenty of ways to bring home your favourite movies. But leading up to the point where now Samsung have decided to just stop making Blu-ray players, and do you think this is going to start the end of physical media as we know it, or do you think people are going to just continue to buy physical media with the players that they have, and maybe buy a new machine that perhaps they can stick away for when their machine dies and they got another one? Or how did this? Did you hear this news at all?
Oh, I was unaware of it. No,
I haven't heard it, but
Yeah.
I mean, I because you've got those, you showed me those steel case discs, so I think collectors will carry on collecting and just use, consoles or whatever. But then, of course, if consoles stop having a physical disc player, then it's game over, really, isn't it?
Well, I think with the likes of Zavvi still selling steelbooks and DVDs and Blu-rays, and HMV now defunct, and as we saw, Jeremy, when we recently visited CEX, there's a lot of stock coming in the stores, and there's a lot of stock in the stores, so plenty of chances he'll pick up physical media. And I think collectors still love to have collections, don't they? And then having your streaming movies on maybe your Apple TV or wherever it is, it's not the same, is it? And the fact is that if you stop your account with them for any particular reason, they just take back the purchases you bought, so you never actually own them.
I've never bought anything that isn't physical media. I've never had any digital media ever. I wouldn't have a clue.
So your audiobooks that you have now, if you suddenly stopped your Audible account, what would happen?
Yeah, you'd lose them.
Yeah,
I think you'd lose them, wouldn't you?
you would. Yeah.
Which is wrong because I've paid for them. But
I think they're supposed to stay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've never done it, but I think if you've bought something, it's supposed to stay on your account. But they at least need to tell you if they're going to take it away, and if they don't, then you've probably got a case to claim it back, I would have thought.
Well, indeed. Couple of fantastic sort of releases to 4K Blu-ray coming soon is Hellboy on 4K Blu-ray, and this is the 2004 Guillermo del Toro movie, and the animated Hellboy series comes to 4K in April the 2nd. Whilst the sequel is scheduled for Ultra HD treatment in May, Hellboy the 2004 classic returns in 4K starring Ron Perlman. Now, you guys, I presume you've seen both of these Hellboy movies, and the recent trailer was dropped this week, the second one. And what are your thoughts on Hellboy? How do you enjoy it? Which one do you prefer? And are you excited about this new film?
Well, I love Hellboy. Anything Ron Perlman and I watch anyway. The original one was fantastic. I mean, absolutely loved it. The second one wasn't as good. I think I'd probably still have rather had a third Ron Perlman than David Harbour one, but I'll give it a go. The second trailer was better for the new one, but we'll see. I mean, you know me, I watch whatever kind of comes along, so I'm bound to watch it.
Yeah, for me personally, I mean, I'm definitely going to go and see this in the cinema. And I showed the trailer to my son, and he said, "Oh, I've already seen it. I don't really like Hellboy. It doesn't really appeal to me." And I thought, well, that's, it's got a lot of humour in it. And I thought that would really appeal to a sort of a 13, 15-year-old kid. Ian, what are your thoughts on both the two Hellboy movies that are existing now and the trailer that we dropped this week?
Well, Hellboy for me is probably one of the ones, because it was a time where there wasn't much in terms of like comic book films, so I absolutely binged it several times over, I think, when it was around. So yeah, I love it personally. first two films. And I'm quite excited to see the new one as well.
Have either of you ever read the comics, the Hellboy comics at all?
No, I've never. I don't read any of them, to be fair. So it's a lost art form on me, I'm afraid.
Well, I think if you checked out Mike Mignola's comic books, you'd probably really love them. They are very distinctive. There's very little color. It's mostly black and white and red, with a little hints and shades of stuff. So if you like the sort of Sin City, The Spirit, those kind of movies, they look very similar to that. Yeah, what did you, Ian? What did you think of the trailer? Did you say you did it excite you more than the first one, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to slightly modernise it, aren't they? So they looks like they've tried to make it more violent, and yeah. So I don't know. I think I'll love it, but I need to see it. Really, I can't make up my mind on the trailer.
It looks distinctively British, though, doesn't it? This particular trailer. Do you notice? I mean, it's mostly sort of set in London. There's much more of a sort of British cast, and I kind of like that feel for a comic book film. I mean, we get a lot of American stuff. We very rarely get anything filmed and kind of set in the UK, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, I agree. That always, I find that quite appealing. That's why I loved V for Vendetta so much, because it was British and it felt like proper English film,
So did either of you happen to see the Elton John and Taron doing Tiny Dancer, singing Tiny Dancer, and the new Elton John biopic that's coming?
Yeah, I've seen it. Taron looks pretty good in it. I'm not a fan of Elton John, if I'm honest.
Same.
I bought one of his singles once, but I even bought a Prince one, so my taste in music is not that good. But yeah, I like Taron Egerton. He's good. I wasn't keen on the first trailer. It looked far too trippy and kind of Tommy-esque for me. I'm not a fan of Tommy. But it's not all trippy. So the new trailer sold me. I will go and watch that. I mean, despite my misgivings about Elton John.
Well, it's directed by the same guy who finished off Bohemian Rhapsody, and obviously that did incredibly well at the Oscars, and it makes you wonder whether on the back of that perhaps next year this might get a nomination. Do you think that's possible, Ian? Do you think this is going to start a new wave of perhaps biopics? Do you think we might get a David Bowie
I definitely think we're going to get a lot of biopics.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to
I don't know
it.
how many. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know how many Taron Egerton's going to star in, because obviously Eddie the Eagle was another one, but that was great as well. I enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, I think I'll watch it, but I'll wait for it to come out on the screen at home rather than go to the cinema. But finally watched Bohemian Rhapsody a couple of weeks ago. Loved it, absolutely brilliant. So I'm well in for these biopics.
He's definitely the best thing in it. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I think Bohemian Rhapsody is an amazing movie. It's brilliant.
Did you like it all the way through? Was there any sort of
Yeah, I did as well. I thought the casting was pretty good. I mean, obviously, Rami is a standout, but that's what he was there for.
I think the problem is when you have a movie like, I mean, the thing about Queen is Freddie Mercury was the standout in Queen. I mean, he was Queen pretty much. I mean, Brian May, everyone knows Brian May, but it was Freddie Mercury that makes Queen. So a biopic about Freddie Mercury is going to be he's going to take center stage and kind of overshadow everyone else anyway.
Yeah, it was a fantastic casting, wasn't it? To the casting,
I like they linked it back to the band, though. In the end,
yes,
he realised he couldn't be without the band. So that was nice.
Well, Rami Malek is reportedly in talks to play Daniel Craig's nemesis in the upcoming Bond 25 film. The Oscar-winning actor is said to be in the final negotiations to play a main villain in his filming schedules for TV show Mr. Robot were amended to make it possible. Now, that's really exciting, I think, for him. Obviously, on the back of this, Bohemian Rhapsody, but I can see him playing some kind of nerdy bad guy. Can you? I mean, maybe even a little bit Mr. Robot.
I've never seen Mr. Robot, but the bad guys in Bond have always been outstanding actors anyway. If you look at the roll call of people who played bad guys, there's a few Oscars among them, and they tend to be the better actor in the movie anyway. You know?
Well, we had this discussion last week on Mr. Connery, and my favourite Bond is Daniel Craig, absolutely 100%. And I think the baddies that he's had have been astoundingly good. And they've always been a bit campy before this. So I think he could play some kind of real.
I wouldn't have called Christopher Lee campy. He was or Yaphet Kotto. They were both fairly full on. Robert Shaw, he wasn't campy. He was a mean. I think that there's a lot of mean old Bond bad guys, but maybe not so much in the recent years.
Character-wise, who were they that these actors were playing?
Well, Christopher Lee was the man with the golden gun, Mr. Scaramanga. Yaphet Kotto, I can't remember his character's name, but Yaphet Kotto was in Alien, and he's big and mean in that, so he was good. Obviously, Robert Shaw had an incredibly brutal fight with Sean Connery on a train, if you remember that one. Probably up until the Daniel Craig fights, that's been the most brutal fight I would have said out of all of them. Robert Shaw was amazing. So I think there's been a lot of. I think that the campness didn't really come in so much until Roger Moore come along and made it a lot more comedic. But Roger Moore's probably one of my favourite Bonds. I really like Roger Moore because I think that's the one I grew up with most.
Well, Malik previously revealed that he was absolutely in to play a villain. Ian, you're a big Mr. Robot fan, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Love Mr. Robot. It's got that trippy element, which is just I just find that fascinating to watch. Similar to Legion, if anyone's ever watched that, that's another sort of like trippy mind experience. Legion from Marvel, I mean, it's on Fox, I think. It's just amazing if you haven't watched it. I love that sort of where you're wondering whether that's real or that's real. You've got no idea until the big reveal, and then even then you're completely lost at some points anyway. So totally fascinates me.
Mr. Robot had that almost Fight Club element to it, didn't it, where you weren't sure at all whether it was real or not. And he played his part incredibly well in a very sort of distinctive way. So do you think a Bond villain is a good role cast for him?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. No reason. Obviously, maybe not so much the physical equal of Daniel Craig because he's quite a slim gentleman.
Yeah,
but
I would say that I think he'd probably be out there, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but I would have unless they do one of these amazing physical transformations. I mean, we've seen it enough in movies that.
Sure.
I'll have a word with him. I could put a few pounds on him and be all right.
You could do that, couldn't you?
Yeah, it'd be fine.
Well, talking of brutes, the fifth installment of Rambo franchise, Rambo: The Last Blood, will hit theatres on September the 20th, 37 years after the series launched with First Blood, and the story centres on Sylvester Stallone's John Rambo crossing into Mexico and taking on a violent cartel when the daughter of one of his friends is kidnapped. Mate, I am really excited for this. I think one of the things about Stallone is, we've seen him in some roles which have been pretty dubious, but on the whole, his acting career has been pretty steady, hasn't it? And when he plays a tough, mean guy, he plays a tough, mean guy. And Rambo was the first film that I ever saw him in. and you're a fan of his work. And how does this sort of movie shape up for you? Do you think it's going to be on the similar kind of vein and look as Logan, if you've seen Logan?
Yes, it's probably going to be more along the lines of Logan. I would have thought. I mean, I do like the Rambo movies. First Blood is an absolute classic. I mean, I absolutely love that. The next two I didn't like as much, but I really like the fourth one. Fourth one's incredible, really, really good. So, um, they're obviously going to kill him off,
Well,
which I
he's
think is a
70.
bit.
Well, he's 73 now.
Yeah, but why can't he just? He's had a pretty tough life. Why can't he just, go off to some nursing home, watch a bit of EastEnders, and just spend the rest of his life with feet up, eating
East
jelly?
End.
Well,
Just
I'm
just
presuming
let him have some peace.
from the poster, where he's looking very cowboy-esque, isn't he? Very Western. He's got this sort of cowboy hat on. That he's retired. He's taking it easy. He's hiding away, and one last job kind of thing pops up. Ian, are you a fan of the Rambo series? Do you remember watching them when you were a young lad?
I can't say that I do really. Yeah, no, I was more of an
Who
Arnie
invited this man on the
fan.
show?
It was all about Arnie for me. Yeah.
Well,
So,
I'm an Arnie fan, and between the two, I would rather watch Arnie than Sly. But I can't moan about Sylvester Stallone. I still enjoy his movies. Even if he punches like a vegetarian, apparently, according to Arnold.
Well, you've had the honor of actually being very close to Mr. Stallone, haven't you?
Yeah, I almost stepped on him at some point.
Yeah.
It was in Planet Hollywood. I've told the story before, but I saw Sylvester Stallone, said hello, and he said hello to me, which was a bit of a moment because it was one of my absolute heroes. My son Freddie was almost called Arnold Sylvester, so until my dad talked me out of it. So, and I'm sure that Freddie to this day it will be eternally grateful to my dad because I don't think anyone actually wants to be called Arnold Sylvester because that sounds like the worst name in the world in retrospect. And I'm glad that my dad was there, but he was nearly Arnold Sylvester. So
This year is the 40th anniversary of the seminal horror sci-fi masterpiece Alien, and all three of us now have got tickets. Hopefully, you have, Jeremy.
I will have by the end of today.
By the end of this evening, to see it in the cinema. Now, this is the first time for me seeing it on the big screen. And you guys, have you seen this before on a cinema screen?
It's the only one I've not seen in the cinema. I even watched those 2 or 4 new ones in the cinema, so it would be nice to go and cleanse my palate and watch the original one again and watch it in the cinema for the first time.
I went to see it on the 25th anniversary. But I don't think it was digitally remastered like this version is. So hopefully it should be even better this time round.
Well, it's now going to be available very, very shortly in glorious 4K. There are 2 types of 4K. I don't know if you've looked into this. There's the 4K Ultra HD high definition, and then there's what's called fake 4K, which is just upscaled Blu-ray, isn't it? But this is going to be beautiful looking, and I'm hoping this is the pre-release of the 4K digital home release being shown in cinema, so we can actually get to see something really pin sharp, sounding beautiful, and it's not some old DVD they're going to slap in. When did you guys last watch it, and what are your thoughts on the theatrical cut and the director's cut?
I can't know the difference between the two. To be fair, I'm not sure which is. Oh look, it's dinner time.
Sorry about
that. Your bread's done. I'm not sure that I would know the difference between the director's cut and any other cut. I mean, I watched it 2 or 3 weeks ago when I still had a telly. Me and Freddie sat down and watched it because Freddie is immune to horror movies as well, it seems, at the age of 10. He said it wasn't very scary. But even watching it with Freddie, he pointed out things that I hadn't noticed. Freddie's going to make movies one day because he's got such an eye for these things, and he was almost predicting what would happen. He would say, "Oh, wouldn't it be good if you saw this shot or that shot?" And quite a lot of it he almost predicted. And he hadn't seen it before that I'm aware of. So, but yeah, he absolutely loved it. I absolutely love it. It's one of the best Alien movies. Fight me.
It's the best. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I haven't seen it for a long time. I think I'm not someone who constantly likes to watch stuff, but I very much looking forward to seeing it on the big screen again. And watching it's because it just feels so dark and vast at just those first few scenes when they're going. You see the spaceship going towards. It's just an amazing experience just to watch it on the big screen. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
I got Freddie a Nostromo cap for his birthday.
From Last Exit to Nowhere, was that?
Of course.
Yeah.
He had a totally Alien and Predator based birthday. One of the very few graphic novels that I ever read was Alien. When I was growing up with Steve, he had a copy of Alien, and it was really gruesome, and much more gruesome than the movie was. It was really, really good. So I enjoyed that.
The first graphic novels were in black and white, I believe, weren't they? They were.
Oh, this one wasn't. This was very much blood.
Was this Dark Horse comics?
I really don't know. It's just like a graphic novel adaptation of the movie, but I would never seen anything like it.
One of the things that's really interesting is that just before Ridley Scott started making Alien, Star Wars obviously was released, and it made him look at the way the Nostromo was going to be looking, because he everything was very pristine in his head, how he wanted the future to look. And then once Star Wars came out with a very used universe, he decided to dirty everything up, make it look very used and very normal. And there's some incredible stuff about the director's cut and the theatrical cut, because in the director's cut he decided to take 10 to 15 seconds off many scenes, supposedly because he felt they dragged on a little bit too long. And in 2006, I think there was an interview with him where he just sort of said that he was unhappy about the director's cut, feeling that the original was pretty flawless and that the additions were just merely a sort of marketing tool. I think I've got all the versions. It's the same as I've got all the versions of Blade Runner, and I prefer the director's cut, quite honestly. But there was some really amazing trivia about the film, where they got a lot of the bits and pieces from to make the film. And the blue laser lights that were used in the alien ship's egg chamber were actually borrowed from the band The Who. I don't know if you know that. They were testing out lasers for their stage show on the soundstage next door, and Ridley Scott nicked those. There was Yaphet Kotto. Ridley Scott told him to annoy Sigourney Weaver off camera so that there'll be tension between their characters. Shredded condoms were used to create tendons from the beast's ferocious jaws. The chest-busting scene was filmed in one take with 4 cameras. I mean, you can imagine that. Just getting that whole thing to just flow as it did. And I don't think the rest of the cast were aware, were they, that this was going to happen?
No, that's genuine shock on their face, isn't it?
Yeah. Jones the cat, getting him to react fearfully to the descending alien. There was a German Shepherd was placed in front of him with a screen between the two so that the cat wouldn't see it at first, and then the screen was then suddenly removed to make Jones stop advancing and start hissing. I mean, he pulled everything out of the bag to make that film work, Ridley Scott. But I think the face huggers are still something that is very iconic, isn't it? And the egg is very iconic. The sound, that's kind of weird, kind of screaming sound that howls through the movie, just puts you massively on edge.
I think that a movie for us still to be talking about it 40 years after its release just goes to show what kind of a movie it is. I wonder what movies were released last year we'll be talking about in 40 years' time.
Exactly. What dates this film, do you think? What, if anything, dates this film apart from Sigourney's hair?
I'm a fan of Sigourney's hair. I will not have anything said about that.
But no, what dates this film? I mean, I can't see anything because it is so well done that I don't think anything really dates this movie at all, does it?
Well, you might be calling Mother Alexa, but other than that, that'd be about it, wouldn't it?
No, I mean, what?
It's pretty similar kind of creatures.
Yeah, no, I think with most of the late 70s sci-fi, it was spot on, spot on. You know, they stand up so well over time that because they got the darkness, the depth, that feeling, which hasn't always been recreated over the years. I mean, the 80s ones, some of them were a little bit free and easy, weren't they? They weren't so well structured, and they didn't have the depth of characters. But yeah,
well, yeah, if you're talking about Blade Runner, maybe, but
some of the 80s ones, I said, not Blade Runner.
But I don't think you could say that about Battle Beyond the Stars. I mean, that's a classic.
It doesn't stand up well to time, though.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I love that movie as well. But yeah, I don't think you could encourage. Well, maybe your son does love it as well. I don't know.
It's not gory and scary enough for him. He's more into Train to Busan.
Okay.
Have you shown your son Jeremy any of H.R. Geiger's original illustrations or artwork that inspired the look of Alien?
I haven't, but I'm sure he'll be fascinated because he absolutely loves all of that, all of the artwork of it and all that kind of thing. That he would be. Oh, did I hang on that? In fact, he got that.
Oh yes, that's a beautiful piece.
It's a massive alien skull he got for his birthday, so he would absolutely love to see some of the Geiger stuff. I'll have to find some for him.
You
I'll have
will.
to get a book of the alien art and things. Because, I mean, he's got a lot of the graphic novels now for his birthday. He got loads of them. Even though a lot of them aren't canon anymore because they like to change stuff, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Or it depends if they ever get the fifth one off the ground and they just rewrite everything again, we'll be all right. But we'll see.
Well, obviously Geiger's work inspired the Alien, but it was the conceptual artist Ron Cobb who came up with the idea that the alien should bleed acid. And I think that's one of the greatest assets of the alien character is that, apart from being incredibly quick on its feet and having that projectile mouth, which is just something else, and dripping that kind of, well, now we know it was condoms. Acid for blood is something.
We've all done that.
Acid for blood, man. I mean, that's pretty awesome stuff. Here's a little question for you both. What actor turned down the role of Captain Dallas?
A foolish one.
Wasn't he?
Is he? Yeah, I don't know.
Any idea?
No.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, the one I was thinking of. There you go.
Yeah, he definitely missed out there.
So
yeah, shame he never got any iconic roles, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To be fair, I think Tom Skerritt would make a better Dallas than Harrison Ford would have done anyway. Yeah. I don't think it would have been as good a movie with Harrison Ford in it.
Indeed.
No, yeah. Harrison Ford was the right man for the other job. So
yeah.
So why does Aliens pip it for you over Alien, Jeremy?
I like there's more action in it. I think that the cast are fantastic in Aliens. I like the fact that it's not that it's a bunch of Marines chucked together. That it's got Bill Paxton in it. I mean, that's always going to boost it up. It's got Michael Biehn in it, and I think he's awesome. It's probably my favourite James Cameron movie. And that Edge into Terminator, which is saying something, and True Lies. I prefer the action of it. I prefer the pace of it. I love the introduction of the Alien Queen. I think that's fantastic. You don't like the sound of it, but the sound doesn't bother me. It's obvious time. It's like, it's like watching a film in the 70s and go, oh look, they've got sideburns. Well, in the 70s they're bound to.
I
So
think
if
it's
the
not so
80s
much. It's
soundtrack
not so much
sounds
the
80s.
yeah. I think it's more the snare, constant kind of military snare drum. It's very
But
Cameron-esque.
I like that about it because
Yeah.
it's a military operation. So, if you had the Hovis advert playing in the background, it wouldn't really go well with it. Um, I think the music, it's not that I don't like Alien, because Alien is a fantastic movie. It's absolutely brilliant. But if I've got to choose one, I'll choose Aliens, because it's more. That I'm not so much of a slow-paced movie person, maybe, and Aliens is a bit more in your face. I remember James Cameron when I saw an interview with him, and Alien was more of a haunted house kind of thing. You don't know when something's going to jump out at you, but then it does. But Aliens is like being on a roller coaster. You can see something coming, but you can't do anything to stop it. And I think that's what I prefer.
Right.
And it's
Well,
okay if I'm wrong.
yeah. Well, indeed. And the thing is, everything that you've said about it is what I agree on. It is exactly what it is. It is a military operation. And yeah, I love the Alien Queen. The fact that she's got the loader as well. I love all that. There's a great cast in it.
And Bishop.
Bishop.
Bishop, Lance Henriksen. Just
Yeah. What confuses me still is AVP and how
Bishop is
AVP fits into the whole Alien versus Predator, the whole Alien universe, and where does it fit in? Would you say? Where
I
does it
think they've
slot?
kind of ignored it now, haven't they? But
Mm.
I like
Because-
Alien vs Predator as its own little separate thing. It's more of a fanboy nod than anything else, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's just something that we saw the Alien Skull and Predator do, and we went, "Oh, that sounds like fun." And then finally they made the movie, and it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't a patch on the original Predator or the original couple of Alien movies at least. But I think it's more of a kids movie. I think that's the movie that got Freddie into liking Alien and Predator, because it's the first one that he saw. It's just fun, and it's got Lance Henriksen in it, so I'll watch it just for that. I'll watch any. He's made some terrible movies, and I've loved all of them. So I can't say much. For that, I've got an autographed copy of his book as well, so I'm obviously a fan of his.
Ian, growing up in the 80s, did you happen to watch a TV show that was on a Saturday afternoon, starring B.A. Baracus?
Yes, indeed.
He was not starring B.A. Baracus. He was a character and played by Mr. T.
Mr. T. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's difficult to differentiate the two because they're basically the same person.
Well, it's those snare drums again.
Yeah.
How can you not love that music?
Jeremy.
Yes.
Your favourite TV show ever?
My second.
Your second?
Yeah. I don't. Doctor Who just about pips it, but I have to say that the A-Team is something very, very special to me. I absolutely love that show.
So,
yeah.
How many seasons?
Sorry, doesn't quite have the length of Doctor Who, does it? So you can't really rate it.
And after the first 3 seasons, it wasn't all that.
So, how many seasons did this? When did it start? How many seasons were there? How many episodes? Tell us the cast.
I can tell you the cast and lots of the guest stars. I couldn't tell you how many episodes. I think there was about 20 in each season, so there's probably 100 episodes because there was 5 seasons. But the last season was, other than being a bit meta in places, with the weirdness of it, we don't talk about that too much. The last season. The first three are phenomenal, though.
So, George Peppard starred as John Hannibal Smith, Mr. T as B.A. Baracus, Dwight Schultz as Howling Mad Murdoch, and Dirk Benedict, formerly from Battlestar Galactica, as Faceman Peck. Stephen J. Cannell, the creator, wrote such a lot of stuff, didn't he, back then, along with Glenn Larson. It was nominated for 3 Emmys, and I think for some people growing up in the 80s, it was the greatest TV show of all time. Why did the movie fail? And do you think that perhaps if they'd have pulled their finger out, that perhaps 5 years after the TV series had finished, perhaps they should have made a movie?
No, I think you should let Sleeping Dogs lie. It was a thing of its time. You should leave it alone. The Rider reboot didn't work. The movie didn't work because the cast was wrong. In my opinion, it wasn't the best cast you could have had. But the whole point about the A-Team is that it was silly and fun, and I don't think the movie was light-hearted enough. And I just think that the cast was perfect, and you couldn't recreate. You just couldn't recreate it. The chemistry they had, even though most of them didn't like each other on screen, the chemistry was perfect.
I quite like the movie. So.
Oh, did you?
But then I like most things. So yeah, no,
It's not that I didn't like the movie, but I don't look at it as in the same kind of universe. It's not quite the same. It's not. I like the slight backstory of why BA didn't like flying. I kind of that was quite fun.
And why was that?
Because he nearly fell out of the airplane when Murdoch was flying it. He was fine up until then.
No surprises there.
200 jumps or something, and then he's terrified after that. But,
so Murdoch was known as Mad Murdoch, and why did he get that nickname? Tell us why he.
Because he was PTSD, I think. You'd look at it these days that he was driven mad by the atrocities that he would have seen in the Vietnam War.
Was that his way of getting out? Do you think
That was his room and board. He made a living on the fact that he wasn't as mad as he made out most of the time, but he lived in the VA hospital because that was an easy life for him, and he could have his dog Billy there and all the other different made-up people or things that he had with him.
Oh, yeah, he had the invisible dog, didn't he?
Yes, but was he real or was he not? Because there was one episode called West Coast Turnaround where he's dragged along the floor by his dog. At the very end, that's the last scene. So,
didn't Murdoch technically outrank one of the
all of them other than Colonel Hannibal Smith. He was the captain.
Oh, he was.
He outran the sergeant and lieutenant.
So this was July of 1983. It aired in the US in January of 1983, and I was 13 when this came out, and I'm pretty sure it was like 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
When it aired.
Yeah.
And back then we had TV shows on what did we have? 2, maybe 3 channels in the UK? What did we have? 3 channels?
3 then.
Yeah. 3 back then. And so you knew the day it was on, the time it was on, and then that music played. And it's just, it's very uplifting.
I used to be sitting in front of the video recorder, pulling out the adverts when I recorded it, and you could get 4 on 1 3-hour tape. So if you're clever with pulling out the adverts, you'd get 4 on a 3-hour tape.
There was a massive rift, wasn't there, between George Peppard and Mr. T? And can you tell us a little bit about that story and why they didn't get on?
Well, they didn't get on because George Peppard was officially the star. I mean, he was the big name actor, but us kids who were watching it, Mr. T was the thing, wasn't he? He was the one. Mr. T was really the star of the show. He's the one that the kids tuned in for. But George Peppard was technically the star of the show. George Peppard didn't like it.
I was a Dirk Benedict fan.
Yeah. So is he.
Yeah.
But
I like
I
the
saw Die
face.
from Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably why I was more so. Yeah, because of the two.
So, any of the cast, were there any of the cast actually in the US military before they joined this show? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of. No, they're all lovelies and actors.
Well, that's where you're wrong, because 3 cast members have had prior US military experience. George
There we
Peppard
go.
served in the Marines. Eddie Velez served in the Air Force, and Mr. T was
He
in.
doesn't count. Eddie Velez, I'm not going to count him
I'm
because
going to count him.
he was in the last couple of seasons, or the last season, I think, or the penultimate season he was in. Sorry.
Mr. T was an MP in the US Army. Wasn't there a reporter that was good friends with the A-Team that helped them out?
Amy Amanda Allen was the first one. AAA, they call her.
AAA.
Melinda Coolier was her name, the actress. She was in the first 2 seasons, but George Peppard basically got rid of her because he said it's a man show for men and manliness. Not that he was outdated in any way, shape, or form. I suppose in the 80s it was probably acceptable to be that misogynistic, but not anymore. You couldn't do it. But
Well,
so she hired them in the first episode and then threatened to blackmail them, she blackmailed them to letting them in by threatening to write a book about them. I mean,
really?
Yeah. Naughty girl, eh?
To do such a thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a very masochistic, real masochismo was going on in that show. I mean, cigars were routinely smoked by Mr. Hannibal Lecter, weren't they? And they were real as well. They weren't some fake cigars. And the gold that was worn by Mr. T, I think it weighed about 50 pounds. That must have been some weight of real gold.
That was from his bouncing in nightclub days. Whenever they found gold chains on the floor, he would put them on and wear them. And that's how he ended up with a massive load of chains around his neck.
Right. Special guests for the show. Hulk Hogan was one of them, wasn't he?
Oh, Hulk Hogan. Loads of wrestlers. Jimmy Snuka was in that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Boy George was in it.
Oh, yes, he was. Yes, I remember that.
Yaphet Kotto was also in it.
Uh-huh.
John Saxon was in it. Yeah, Don Stroud. Just loads of them. There's always like a bad guy of the week. And quite often they were quite famous stars. Doug McClure was in one of them once. And I was a big Doug McClure fan, so that was a bit of a shock. Doug McClure from Land That Time Forgot and all at the Earth's Core and stuff like that. You must remember Doug McClure, surely.
I do, yeah, the name rings a bell. Now, Dirk Benedict obviously was in Battlestar Galactica. What part of the program is there another little hint to Battlestar Galactica?
The Cylon in the episode, that's from the episode. There's always a catch, I think, where he kind of recognised the Cylon and to go past. That's when Hannibal always played an extra in movies. He was more often than not the Aquamaniac, seen coming out of the water in a big costume.
There was lots and lots of stuff that I was reading about, obviously, when I was looking into the A-Team, which, has got to have been really growing up in the 80s, probably the most famous of the TV series. I mean, obviously we had Knight Rider and the other Glen A. Larson shows, but the amount of stuff that we read about, the Friends cast and how well they connected, and the Big Bang Theory and how well they get on, but the A-Team, they didn't really get on at all behind the scenes from what I've read. And according to Dirk Benedict, George Peppard refused to talk to Mr. T and would use Benedict as a messenger between them. He'd only refer to Mr. T as the man with the gold, and there was a lot of tension between the cast. Yeah, it never seemed to show, did it?
I think that's quite often the case, because if you look at Moonlight, and those two hated each other, but they had wonderful chemistry. On scene. On-screen chemistry is not the same as off-screen at all, is it?
So, tell us about the crime that the A-Team didn't commit. when
The bank, they knocked over the Bank of Hanoi.
Right. So at the very beginning of the show, we hear. Can you remember the lines and how it goes at the very
It
beginning?
depends. It ended up 10 years ago. No, off the top of my head, I can't remember it. For a crime they didn't commit, probably gave them maximum security to go to the Los Angeles Underground. If you have a problem, if no one else can find them, no one else can help, and you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-team bullets. There you go.
So the crime they didn't commit was that their commanding officer in Vietnam, Colonel Morrison,
William Morrison,
ordered them to rob the Bank of Hanoi.
Yes.
Hope was that they would help bring the war to an end, and the mission was successful. But when they returned to the headquarters, the A-team found it burnt down to the ground, and that Morrison was murdered by the Viet Cong, and all the evidence that they were acting under orders vanished in the fire. And then they went on the run, of course. So how the hell did they get out of Vietnam back to the States then without being caught?
The A-team, they probably built a tank that can go underwater out of rice packets and did it that way. I don't know how they got back to America.
The fantastic actor Robert Vaughn was added into the cast, wasn't he, in the 5th season? And he was alongside George Peppard. What was his role in the series?
Well, basically, the A-team were caught and blackmailed into helping the US government do things that the US government weren't really allowed to do, like a black ops operation. The only one of those that is really worth watching is the Say Uncle affair, because David McCullum's in it and they were both in Man from Uncle.
Right.
It just wasn't the same. That they were playing, in the earlier seasons, there weren't musical interludes, or when they're building stuff, they'll be playing music, but just the A-team music. And later on, they were putting, proper artists doing songs in it and stuff like that. And it just didn't have the same look and feel. And they messed up the ending as well. The last episode aired the week before it finished. So the two were ran the wrong way.
Ah, what a shame.
Because Murdoch in the last, what should have been the last episode, was wearing a T-shirt that said Finn, obviously as in, the finish, the last one, and the one that the week they aired after that said almost finished. So they aired them the wrong way around as well.
Did we ever see in the A-team where BA gets the van, which was a GMC Vandura, or cargo van, wasn't it?
I think he just always seemed to have it. Face had a Corvette as well, didn't he? Which had a shimmy at 85, apparently. Hannibal quite often told him.
Can you remember any of the license plates for the BA's van?
No, actually, I can't. I didn't pay that much attention.
I thought you might know that. Being a sort of fan, that's sort of one of those nerdy details.
I could quote you plenty of them, and if you
well,
did a pop quiz, I'd probably do all right.
It was 2L8 3000.
But I can't even remember my own phone number, so that's not going to help me. I've already forgotten what you just said.
Well, mate. So you've got obviously the A-team box set, haven't you? With all
I've got more than one copy of it. Yeah, actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
Now I've seen around the beautiful tin box. Do you have that one?
I don't have a tin box. No, I don't think I do. No.
Well,
I've also got them all recorded on the telly. If I ever get a telly again, I can just sit there and watch them on loop.
Well, I might be able to help you out with that, because I do know somewhere that has the tin box with it's like a metal US Army tin box with the A-team on it, and they're all inside there.
See, that's lovely. Did you have any memories of the A-team? Was it something that you watched, or were you more of a Knight Rider? Or
me personally, oh yeah, mate, A-team for me, absolutely. I think the thing about the all the other Glenn Hose Larson series was it was all about the car and less more about the characters. I wasn't really bothered about Michael Knight. I certainly wasn't really bothered about the guy who rode Street Hawk. It was more about the bike. Yeah. It was all about the vehicles in the Dukes of Hazzard as well. It was all about the General Lee. I wasn't really bothered about Bo and Luke Duke, and it was the A-Team was about the A-Team, and the wagon they drove around in was just happened to be in one episode, or not it happened to be another episode. But it was about
It got blown up and drowned and all kind. That van went
yeah.
through the mill. All
But it
getting
was all
shot.
about them sorting out people's problems, wronging right, righting wrongs, and I think that's what drove that series. And I think seeing people jumping from moving cars and blowing up and then flying in the air was tremendously thrilling to watch.
There's always a fight of the week, at least one fight a week, which is always good.
Oh yeah.
And they all had their signature
those big
moves.
sort of knuckle dusters as well, didn't he? And he would give you a full-on smack in the face. He'd give someone a full-on smack.
And then he'd throw you as his finishing move. Although in the very first episode, Mexican Sleigh Ride, they lost the fight. There's a fight in a Mexican bar, and BA gets thrown across the bar, and then Hannibal gets knocked out, and they only fight in the first movie, they lose. And it wasn't a face was played by someone different, wasn't he? In the pilot episode.
Was he?
Yeah, Tim Dunnigan. Yeah.
Right.
He was played by someone completely different. But they changed him to Dirk Benedict because he looked too young. Tim Dunnigan.
There's old Murdoch's name, his first name, because obviously he's known as Howling Mad Murdoch, but what was his first name?
I don't think you ever find it out.
Really?
It's just HM, and they called him Howling Mad.
Did they? So that was all his characters known.
Yeah, that's I think all you know, man.
I think we ought to sort of now pry into Mr. Anderson's mind and look at some of his memories from when he was a wee snapper to how he is now. Ian, when were you aware of the little box in the room and movies that you first went to see, and what stayed with you? And do you remember the A-Team? How old were you when the A-Team was on TV?
Well, probably the first run. I was slightly too young to watch it. 77. I can't remember when the A-Team actually came out. I'm sure Jeremy knows that off the top of his head, but
83.
83. Yeah. So yeah, I would have been too young for the first run, but I would have. I picked it up on the second run.
So what grabbed your attention as a growing up lad when you were becoming aware of pop culture and TV?
Sort of first memories, sort of things like actual proper TV, things like Buck Rogers. Surprisingly, was kind of like one of my sort of early ones because it's a bit more accessible to a young child than some things. There's no violence and it's quite silly and fun. So yeah, I quite like that.
Certainly, series 2 was silly and fun, wasn't it? That
yeah.
The first series was fantastic, but I think when he got more control of the second series, that's where it had a massive downfall.
Yeah. No, I mean I still enjoy it. I enjoyed all of it. I like the crazy, silly music when they're dancing and the weird disco music that they thought they were going to have in the future. It was quite good fun.
I like the fact that they just thought all women would wear skin tight lycra in the future.
Yeah.
I'm still
waiting for that.
Still waiting for that. So, Battlestar Galactica for you as well, or?
Battlestar Galactica was I mean, again, that's got the fluffy bit with the the animatronic dog and it's just a joyful program, really. Well, dog / bear, I guess you call it. It's a funny little thing. Moffat.
Yeah, Moffat. Yeah.
So were you a fan later on of the later Battlestar Galactica series?
Oh, absolute huge fan of the more recent 2004 version. So yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that it brings sort of universal spirituality into it and a connection to all things. Totally appeals to me. And also its short-lived prequel Caprica or Caprica, sorry, not Caprica, That sounds like paprika. Anyway, yeah, Paprika was just amazing too. I mean, that sort of started the explain the backstory, the reason why the Cylons became who they became, and yeah, it was quite brilliant. I think the whole reboot of Battlestar Galactica, yeah, for me, perfection.
I've never watched it. Never watched it.
No, it's sci-fi perfection for me in terms of like television. Yeah, it's number 2 on my list. So, yeah,
Number 2 or number 1 then?
Number 1 is Game of Thrones. So yeah, you can't really escape Game of Thrones. It's
and who would want to?
No, exactly. I mean, my friend James has escaped it, and I keep telling him you must watch it. He just will not do it. So
I think everybody knows Game of Thrones, surely.
Yeah.
I was doing a job for a customer the other day, and when I got to the house, there was a lady and a child there. And she said, "I'm just letting you in." And she said, "We're going to go, and he'll be back later on." And the gentleman come back in the afternoon, and I said, "Oh, you know, your wife was showing us around, tea and coffee and stuff." And he went, "No, it's not my wife, it's my sister." And I said, "Well, you never know. It might be Game of Thrones around here." So everyone kind of gets the references like that. Game of Thrones is going to be here forever. I think it's going to be one of them things that people will talk about for donkey's years. Because it's perfect.
It is. It's the only fantasy that I've been able to get my wife to watch. So, that's it really. I mean, that kind of speaks volumes for it. It's it appeals to people on so many different levels. So yeah, they kind of get lured in because the first series is not so much not so much fantasy in there, and then suddenly the fantasy starts coming in. There's the dragons start coming, and then by that time most people are too hooked to look back. So yeah, that's why it's perfection, I think, because you don't have to be a fantasy fan to fall in love with it. Yeah, brilliant.
What stayed with you, Ian, over the years, in terms of your viewing, and what do you sometimes go back to sort of have another little look at?
I'm not, but in terms of television, I'm not really a go back and watch it type of person. I'm very rarely with films as well, but yeah, some films that I'll always watch are V for Vendetta. I'll watch that every time it's on because I just love it. I don't, it just appeals to me that you can try actually achieve blowing up the House of Parliament. I think that's just wonderful thought. So yeah, no, I just, that sort of film for me just ticks all the boxes because I can just keep watching it, which is why I can kind of give it 10 out of 10 because I just repeat watch for me. I know it's not a perfect film, and I know not everyone loves it as much as me, but it works for me. So there you go.
I've only ever seen it once.
Yeah, no, I just love it. I love the language and the way that he talks. Yeah, it just appeals to me on a sort of theatric level as well as everything else. So yeah, I mean, directed, it's perhaps not the best directed film, but
which is incredible considering the previous film that the Wachowski brothers had done, which was one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time. Alias is one of your favorite TV shows. Have you seen Alias at all, Jeremy?
No, I haven't. No.
Tell
us a little bit about that, Ian.
Well, I mean, it starts as a sort of spy thriller, and it's J.J. Abrams' baby, basically. One of the TV series where he's been most involved, I think, from the start.
That Fringe,
yeah, that Fringe. So it has a real nice feeling about it. Everything seems to connect well. He towards the end he sort of dropped out of it, but he I think they managed to close it off quite nicely. But it starts with a sort of spy thriller theme. I mean, she's Sydney Bristow is the female lead. She is working for an agency who she thinks is part of the government, but then she realises is not, and she becomes like a mole inside that agency. And then eventually they just bring into it a little bit of sci-fi, and a little bit of fantasy, and a little bit of historical Nostradamus type stuff. So it sort of gradually evolves as it goes along into a more overall geek fest, really. To be honest, I just love it because I've got a bit of a soft spot for female kick-ass leads. So and obviously Jennifer Garner is quite gorgeous. So.
TV sci-fi geeks around the world tend to hold the TV show Babylon 5 in fairly high esteem, and you do as well, don't you? That's another one of your.
I mean, it doesn't graphically hold up, but character-wise and sci-fi, I think overall Babylon 5's been one of the best until Battlestar Galactica came along, at really sort of exploring the connected universe, and it brings in a lot of elements of spirituality into it as well, which is ticks my box because I'm a bit of a crazy person like that, but and I love to feel like the universe is slightly more than we think, so that's where it ticks it for me, and it's got the big
Oh, we seem to have lost Iain there for a moment.
bad.
Oh, there we are.
Oh, nearly.
Yeah. No. Oh dear, we lost Iain there for a moment.
I think the universe wanted him back.
It is, yeah. Oh, he's back again with us.
Yeah.
So Babylon 5 and Star Trek Discovery as well you're a big fan of.
Yeah, I mean it's totally
not so much then.
To that. I mean I love all Star Trek, but I absolutely adore it. I mean it's
captured you. Yeah,
it's totally captured me because it's I like the fact that it connects together. I mean, there's no random episodes. I know some people love that in Star Trek, that there's lots of random episodes, but there are a few random episodes, but they're all generally connected together by an overriding theme, which is why I think Doctor Who as well has improved a lot, because they're always connected together now rather than just random episodes.
And your favourite Doctor so far?
Yeah, favourite Doctor is it's my brain has gone blank. Matt Smith. Yeah, he's been my favourite. He just drew me back in because I was really fed up with David Tennant by the end of it. I was just bored of his companions. I was just getting bored of the fact that he seemed to have a new companion every 5 seconds. And it's just, So, Matt Smith came along and I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to see.
Well, I agree with you, Iain, because Matt Smith, for me, brought me back into Doctor Who. I wasn't particularly interested in it before, since probably Tom Baker. And then Matt Smith came along and I thought, well, this looks really interesting. Jeremy, you massively disagree with that. And why? And who is your favourite Doctor?
Well, it depends what era you want to go for, from the original ones or the
so
reboot.
Which is one that you hold the highest esteem, and why?
Of the recent years, Peter Capaldi was outstanding. Peter Capaldi was old school Doctor for me. The stories were pretty good.
I love Capaldi's because the script writing was amazing.
Yeah, I watched his first episode at the cinema and I was hooked completely. Yeah. I think Matt Smith was fine. I haven't disliked any of them apart from probably Colin Baker. Kind of put me off for a little while. Paul McGann, just because he did a really bad episode. Of the original, I think of the original Doctors, I loved all of them. I would really struggle to separate them. Maybe not so much William Hartnell because I didn't see many of his. But one of my favourite episodes ever is Doctor Who and the Five Doctors, which has got, the first five Doctors, albeit very briefly for Tom Baker, and obviously not William Hartnell because he died by then. But, just seeing them all interacting together, Patrick Troughton was hilarious. And I just loved all of the original ones. They're just wonderful. There hasn't really been dud season in the new ones either. I really like Jodie Whittaker. She's been great fun. I don't get we were talking about toxic fan bases the other week, weren't we? I don't really get the whole, well, no, she can't be a girl. Why can't the Doctor be a girl? Everyone was fine when Missy come along and it was the Master and he turned into a girl and she was brilliant. So why can't it be the other way around?
Do you think the next series, well, not necessarily the next series, do you think the next transformation might be another woman? Do you think we might get another girl next?
We'll have to see how the viewing figures go as to, if they like a female Doctor or they're going to go to, a crotchety old man or a heartthrob or, a dog. He could be anything,
Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's working with this toxic fan base that's trying to figure out what they actually want. Do they want just something that's fun to watch, or do they want to overanalyze and make their decisions up before they've actually watched it?
At the end of the day, Doctor Who is very much a child's program. It's the one we watched as a kid from behind the sofa. Star Wars is a kid's movie. Just stop overanalyzing things. Just have a bit of fun and watch the TV. And if you don't want to watch a female Doctor Who, just watch something else. Go back and watch The Sweeney and something else from the 70s that's, stuck in its time.
Yeah.
Just, just enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, just don't watch it. Just shut up. I'm famous for not enjoying Tom Cruise movies, but I don't go online and go, "Oh, Tom Cruise is rubbish." I just don't watch his movies.
That's because you're sensible, Jeremy. A sensible choice by Ian and one beloved by our other wonderful host is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and you're a huge fan of that, Ian, too, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan as Andy is, but I am a big fan, and I came into it quite late, I have to admit. But I watched them all from start to finish, and just beautiful stuff. Along with Angel as well, and then Firefly and Dollhouse, which is also marvelous stuff.
Indeed.
Anyone hasn't seen Dollhouse should watch it. And again, like Firefly, it never should have finished when it did, but there you go. We take the wonderful stuff when we've got it. But Buffy, majorly successful. I mean, how many seasons was that? Oh, God, don't know off the top of my head, but that was a huge program for me in the 90s.
A recent discovery for you is the series believe is a Netflix series called Expanse.
Yeah.
Jeremy, have you seen this at all?
I watched some of it. I couldn't get into it. It's one of the things, you ever watch a TV show that's on Netflix or one of the streaming services, and you start watching a few episodes, and you just completely forget you ever watched it, and you because it hasn't caught you, and you haven't wanted to go back to it, and it's not until you say, "Have you seen the Expanse?" Oh yeah, I have seen that. Forgot all about it. Just it didn't grab me.
No, I mean it's a space opera, so I mean it's not everyone likes space opera, but I mean it's you've got it's pretty much like Game of Thrones in space, to be honest. It's you've got the different factions and something brewing in the background, and they're too busy fighting to appreciate that something's about to come and destroy their universe, as it were. So I mean it ticks my sci-fi boxes, really.
As does Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, indeed. Yes. I mean, that's just fun.
Yeah, exciting news for the next series, though, isn't it? It's been, saved and not and not given the closure.
Oh, I thought it was definitely still going. Well, okay.
Yeah, oh, it's no,
New
it's
to me.
still going. It's still going. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It was green lighted, and I'm very much looking forward to the new series. What particularly sort of got you about Marvel's Agents of Shield? I mean, obviously, if you're a big fan of the MCU, you're going to probably watch it because it ties lots of little ends in and connects some dots here and there. But what particularly do you like a lot about Marvel's Agents of Shield?
Well, I like the fact that it runs in parallel with the films. So, I mean, it doesn't always mention them, but there's a lot of elements from the films which are put in there, like the Kree, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to be part of the overall universe. So, I mean, the first series was a little bit okay. It's quite good fun, but it's not really what I expected. And then suddenly the superpowers come in, and you start realizing that you're watching something that's growing on you, and it's got the comedy moments and the charming interactions and just a nice character building, so that you really get engaged with the characters in it. So
Badlands is another series that you're very fond of. Jeremy, you seen Badlands at all?
I've not even heard of it.
Then Ian,
It's
explain very briefly what Badlands is and about, and where we can perhaps watch it.
It's absolutely brilliant. First series, it's like most of the first series. You have to look past it a little bit, but it sets the pace. I mean, it's martial arts, Jeremy, so you should really watch it.
Okay, I'm up for that.
Beautifully done. It's basically a post-apocalyptic world, and sword fighting is based the way that they resolve disputes. So it's
Me too.
Sword fighting and martial arts. Sword fighting and martial arts, and sort of innate power within someone like a chi energy, that they can, some people have the ability to channel it, and it's a bit dangerous when they do, because they start killing everyone around them. So it's just great, isn't it? So from season 2, I think. So yeah, Nick Frost.
Do you know if Badlands
Nick Frost doing Nick Frost?
Nick Frost is, yeah. Is Badlands appearing on any streaming service? Do you know where listeners can go and check it out?
It's on Amazon Prime.
It's on Amazon Prime. As is The Great Man in the High Castle, which was number 10 on your list.
I would just caveat Badlands. It's probably going to finish after season 3, so
right.
I think Amazon carry it on. So hopefully they'll bring it to a close. And yes, Man in the High Castle is it's
fantastic.
A wonderful book. Been
Written
made
by
into
Philip K. Dick.
Probably even more wonderful series. Yes.
Yeah.
Nazis if they had won the war. I mean, who doesn't like to think about that? No, I mean, who doesn't enjoy that sort of concept of how much different the world could be if the Nazis had succeeded? It's an interesting concept, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to give too much away to anyone who wants to watch it without any idea, but there's a sort of multiverse in there. So have they actually won in every universe? Who knows? But yeah, it's a great thing. So
if you haven't checked it out, Jeremy, on Amazon Prime, it really is very good. 2 series available up there. I think 2 series. Yeah. I think 2 series. Yeah, and I think you'd like it, Jeremy. It's quite gripping, and it has a great spin.
Get around to getting the telly again, am I?
I'll ask you about that a little bit later. What happened to it? I've got your list here, Ian, of your 10 favourite films in no particular order, and we'll go through them very quickly. You listed Alien as your number 1, 10 out of 10. Star Wars: New Hope, 10 out of 10. Blade Runner, you gave 9 out of 10. Dark Knight, 10/10. Yeah. Avatar, where you gave a 9 out of 10. Avengers: Infinity War, that was a full 10 out of 10. Thor: Ragnarok, and The Matrix are both 10 out of 10, and Fast and the Furious 9 out of 10, and Viva Vendetta are full marks, 10 out of 10 for those. So it kind of gives us good insight to where you're at with your movies, and of course with those TV shows that you liked, you can see where you're kind of standing, which is fantastic. Jeremy, there was no curveballs in there either. There was some goodies in there.
It's a curveball.
Well,
They're all good. They're all good.
Well, I've yet to catch up on the Fast and Furious movies, and I'm willing to accept that I'll probably enjoy them. Blade Runner obviously wouldn't make my top 10 because I don't get it. Also, I never liked The Matrix. It just didn't land with me at all. There's nothing for me, The Matrix.
I think you should watch it with Fred. I think Freddie would kind of like it.
Yeah,
Perhaps
maybe.
Yeah, give it a try then.
Yeah, I'm willing to give it a revisit.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Fast and Furious is it's that first feeling when you went to see it at the cinema. It's that's why it got the 10 out of 10 because 9 out of 10 because seeing it at the cinema for that first time, it was like, wow, actual car chase that I liked, because I normally don't like car chases. So I just enjoyed it, and there was a good chemistry between Vin Diesel and Paul. I can't remember his name.
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker.
See, I'd never heard of him till he died.
No.
He died, never heard of, oh, Paul Walker's died, and I was like, who's Paul Walker? I mean, cars do nothing for me.
Yeah.
So, especially the early ones are based around car chases and stuff. I drive a 1996 1.2 litre Corsa. I mean, that's how much of and I need a spoon and some Vaseline to get in the thing. I just
he honestly does.
It's true.
See it sitting in behind his gear stick. There's some Vaseline, KY jelly, and a big spoon, shoehorn.
But because cars don't do anything for me at all. I have no interest in cars until they just become violent, silly things, and The Rock and Jason Statham are in them. I just given them a miss.
Yeah, the later ones are quite silly, but they've got lots of good people in them. So yeah.
But I think the later ones are the ones that I'll enjoy because they're not based around racing cars. They're based around submarines and all kinds of weird stuff. So I'm happy to watch them.
It's just silly.
It's always the joy, isn't it? Part of the Bond movies, isn't it? Is what car are we going to see? What special equipment's going to be on board?
Oh yeah, when he rocked up in the Mondeo, I was like, oh, that's good. That's a sensible car. It's not overpriced.
Can buy that.
It's quite good mileage on them things.
Apart from the 2CV, that's probably the most affordable car I think we've seen in a Bond film, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I fell in love with that DB9. I think it was DB9 or DB8, whatever it was.
I loved the Lotus Esprit. That was my favourite.
See, we're of the age. Did you used to have the Aston Martin with the little shield that popped up at the back? And the little tiny Matchbox one.
Yeah.
And the Lotus Esprit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the Esprit. Yeah.
And the Moonraker Lunar Buggy. Drax. Drax was the black helicopter. And the Moonraker white helicopter, I think there was 2 in a set. But yeah, certainly I think the iconic DB9 is something else, isn't it?
The thing about like all these flashy cars and stuff like that, if someone gave me an Aston Martin DB9, I'd sell it, buy something sensible and keep the money.
Yeah,
just a car. I wouldn't keep it.
I don't think it serves any of us, does it? I mean, we've all got children, and there's no room for them in there.
No, but the ejector seat might come in handy when he's driving along the road and the children are bickering. You're like, you know what? What's that button do? Press that one. Bye.
that red button looks like a sticky sweet that they left in there beforehand.
It sounds like the back of my car. It's just sweet wrappers and sticky sweets. Normally, like squished into the carpet. They're like, oh look, there's some carpet. Let's put some sweets in there.
So let's just wrap things up for the last sort of 5-10 minutes. And what happened to the TV, Jeremy? did you just switch it on and nothing happened, or?
Pretty much. Come downstairs. I like to watch the news before I go to work, because obviously the world is such a happy and joyous place at the moment. There's nothing. You're never going to turn the TV in and go, he said that and she said what, at the moment.
Yeah.
So, just to G me up before I go to work, come downstairs, turn the telly on, and it just kind of went, nah, I'm all right, thanks. So I don't have a telly. But I don't have a problem with not having a telly. I like the silence of not having a telly. I'm never one to need that kind of stuff. I mean, these days, if I want to watch something on Amazon, I can put my phone on. I've got Netflix on my phone as well. I don't, there's nothing on Sky that I can't watch somewhere or another on my phone anyway. So
That's right. Yeah.
if I was that desperate to catch it, there's nothing at the moment. I think, I must go and watch it. I must watch that. I haven't even caught up on the last series of The Walking Dead yet. I've watched the first episode of it.
I've dropped Walking Dead. Yeah, it's never going to end, so I've given up with it.
I just, there's not a lot on at the moment that's making me go, ooh, I must have the telly fixed. So it's not like it's some radio rentals. You can't phone them up and get them. Oh, my telly's blown up. So when you actually have to spend money on a telly, I just kind of think, you know what? There are other things I want to save up that are much more important to me.
Indeed.
That I need to sort out.
Absolutely.
So telly can wait. The kids have got a little telly in their room. I can go and watch telly up in their room if I want to watch telly.
So you have a Cineworld pass, which is probably like a giant TV, isn't it? So Tuesday night, we're off to see Alien, and I'm much looking forward to that.
I did watch Alita, by the way.
Oh, okay.
We're preparing ourselves.
So did you go with the children first of all, or did you go by yourself?
No, on myself. It was all right. It's it's just the whole point of this movie was to set up for a sequel that it's never going to get. So the story's never going to finish. I don't just make a movie and then if that movie's a hit, then make another one. Don't make a movie just to set up a trilogy or whatever. It should have finished. There should have been a proper end to it, and then if it was it could have gone on. Stupid pointless cameo at the end. You're like, really? Why are they doing this? Hasn't he ruined enough movies?
Supposedly they're going to get the sequel, but yeah, it's a bit of a dangerous formula, I think, to set yourself up for potential failure.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Avatar movie he's doing that with as well.
I honestly thought it finished pretty well. I mean, yes, it's slightly open-ended, but I think it concluded well. Personally, I thought.
I didn't think it had a finish. I mean, it's hard to talk about it because a lot of people won't have seen it. But it ended that nothing was resolved. The bad guys kind of got away with it and are laughing up on their ivory towers. And a lot of the good guys didn't make it. And were they good guys anyway?
Well, I don't think we should spoil it for anybody, but I think both Ian and I really adored it, didn't we?
Absolutely. I was just enthralled from the visuals and watched it on IMAX and it was just wonderful. Right in my face. Glorious.
Oh, I mean, I watched it in 3D because I thought it'd be better to watch. Because your recommendation was watch it in 3D.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And I don't know, it just didn't. It's not like I didn't enjoy it. It was a perfectly fine movie. Would I bother watching it again? If it's on the telly and I had a telly by then, I might watch it. But it just didn't do what I had really high. Maybe because I had really high hopes for it. If I thought it was going to be rubbish, it probably would have been a nice surprise. But
I'm glad you saw it.
Expecting more.
I'm glad you've seen it, and
glad you are.
Last night I went to go and see The Shining, and it was on at an independent cinema in the town where I work. And this film, I know you both haven't seen, and I'm quite surprised you haven't. If you have seen The Shining and you've seen it only on your TV, seeing it on on a huge screen was something quite spectacular. The Overlook Hotel, the hallways, the colours were more distinctive than I'd ever noticed before. And if you've seen the films, and I don't want to tell you guys too much because I do hope you do get to see it very shortly. The yellows and the reds and how things transferred, the bleakness of outside in the winter, and the soundtrack was as haunting as Alien is. The sounds of what was in the film Hereditary or the Babadook or the Witch, very haunting sounds, and it was very, very distinctive, and I absolutely loved it. I went with my girlfriend who had never seen it. She likes a horror to be horror. She likes the good old jump out your seat kind of stuff, and I asked her to just do a very brief review of it, and she saw it in a very different way. I'm going to very quickly read it out what she said. She said, The Shining is not so much a horror, but a stark portrayal of a controlling, violent husband. And here is a man who wants to control his family so completely as he applies for a job that will isolate them for 5 months. His wife and child literally cut off from civilization, and what he reckoned on, his docile, doll-like wife fighting back. The docile yellow representing domestic harmony is slowly replaced by accents of red as Nicholson descends into a narcissistic nihilism as he seeks to bully, terrify, and dominate his family. His pathetic attempt at a writing career, his just made-up notion, and his ineffectiveness as a provider is viciously and is vindictively played out on his family. And that is one way that I never thought I would look at this film. I saw a lot of the supernatural in it. I saw a lot of the horror and the subliminal stuff before, time and time and time again. It's a movie that I've probably seen a good 25 times, and she made me see this film in a different way, and I absolutely loved the fact that I did. So, guys, we have to mention the inevitable, which was the lack of our wonderful, gorgeous co-host and leader of our pack, Andy, who didn't join us tonight. This is probably the reason why it's not as professional as it should be, but I do hope you've enjoyed the show. Jeremy, I hope at some point you might replace your TV with something. Got anything you're planning to watch for this week on your blower, on your dog and bone?
Not necessarily, no.
No?
Maybe I need to have a look at what's been recommended to me this week.
Yeah.
I quite like the Amazon Prime. What's it called again? The one with Nick Frost?
Badlands.
Badlands. I quite like the sound of that because I'm a big fan of Nick Frost.
Well,
See, Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg's the one that everyone knows, but a Simon Pegg film without Nick Frost tends to be a bit of a stinker.
So
but Nick Frost can carry off of any film without Simon Pegg.
Are you going to go and see the new movie that he's in, the wrestling film?
Yeah, if I'm with my family, I was hoping to watch that this week as well.
Great stuff.
Because I'm a big wrestling nerd, obviously, literally.
I do hope that we just sort of give each other a little message after our Alien viewing. Ian, I shall see you on Tuesday night. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's been a pleasure being here. And I was just going to say to Jeremy, The Wrestler is one of my all-time favourite films.
The Wrestler's a good movie, yeah. I like The Wrestler. Yeah. It's Mickey Rourke's best movie. Apart from maybe Expendables.
But yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's been fun. Thank you so much. This has been a Retro Inc. podcast production. Go to our website, retroincpodcast.co.uk, and join us on Twitter, Instagram, the Retro Inc. Facebook page, and the Retro Inc. YouTube channel. Alternatively, you can find us and many other podcasts at the StarWarsCommonwealth.com. Podcasts such as Talk Star Wars, Tumbling Saber, The Nerd Room, Generation X-Wing, Reg Squadron, San Diego Sabres Radio Podcast, the Sandcrawler Podcast, and Tatooine Sons. And of course, ourselves, the Retro Inc. Podcast, with myself, Adam, the wonderful Jeremy, and Andy. Please like our Retro Inc. Facebook page and come and join on the fun on our Retro Inc. Podcast Facebook group. Thanks for joining us. Please share with your friends. Love and peace to you both. Thank you very much.
Can I just say that's exactly the way me and Andy finished it last week.
Was it? Oh,
yeah, we were that professional.
Thank you, listeners, and we'll see you next time on the Retro Inc. podcast. Bye for now.
Seeing ya.
Bye.